I'm here today, Mr. Speaker, to update the House on further action the government will take to rebuild trust in public life in the wake of these damaging revelations since my statement last week. I'll finish the statement first, if I may. Mr. Speaker, I am sure the House will agree with me. The issues of standards, while important in and of themselves, do not meet the scale of disgust that we all have when we see powerful, rich men misuse their positions to abuse women and girls. These procedural rules, and the rules that I will talk to the House about today, Mr. Speaker, are important given what has been able to happen in the past, but we should start by recognising that our response, collectively, requires wider changes in the culture and use of power wherever it rests. This goes to the heart of who my right honourable friend the Prime Minister is. It is why he became a human rights lawyer in the first place, why he became the Director for Public Prosecutions, and why he changed the Crown Prosecution Service to be more victims-oriented, and it is why he became Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I set out last week, Jeffrey Epstein was a despicable criminal who committed disgusting crimes. The Epstein scandal is another awful example of a culture that did not value the lives, let alone the voices, of women and girls. The series and sequencing of events across the last week has rightly made clear to us all that for too long and too often, influential people in positions of power, overwhelmingly men, have been able to avoid proper and just scrutiny because of the perverse power structures that incentivise their belief that rules do not apply to them. And if I may say so, Mr. Speaker, members chuntering from the benches opposite, whilst I am talking about the victims of sexual abuse and abuse of power, should know better and should recognise that they should be quiet and listen when we are talking about the victims and the justice they deserve to seek. Peter Mandelson's disgraceful behaviour raises a number of questions about the ability of the current standard system to catch those few who seek to break our rules. This damages all of us across the House. Mr. Speaker, we have all been appalled at Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting crimes and Peter Mandelson's despicable behaviour. It is utterly contrary to what the Prime Minister stands for and the values at the heart of this government. We are resolute in our commitment to fighting men's violence against women and girls and supporting their victims. Delivering on this mission is a critical part of our response to the terrible misogyny at the heart of the Epstein scandal. We also recognise that Peter Mandelson's behaviour has posed difficult questions about our safeguards against corruption. I have set out today, Mr. Speaker, the steps the government is taking to ensure that the British public can have confidence in the integrity of public life.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's authority is gone and his government is starting to collapse. But the PM's decision to appoint Peter Mandelson raises massive questions about standards in public life, questions which the Minister's statement today just doesn't answer. Mr. Speaker, advisers advise, but ministers decide. And on that basis, can the Minister explain why it was right for Morgan McSweeney to resign, but not right for the Prime Minister to resign? Morgan McSweeney might have provided the advice, but it was the Prime Minister who made the decision to appoint the best friend of the world's most notorious paedophile to be His Majesty's ambassador in Washington. And the PM did this despite knowing that Mandelson had stayed in Epstein's house while he was in jail for child prostitution. The problem is not the structures or the processes. The information was there. The warnings were there. The problem is that the Prime Minister had all of that before him and yet chose to ignore it. He cannot keep blaming others. He cannot blame the process. He must start taking personal responsibility. For the record of this government on standards is truly extraordinary. First, the Prime Minister was embroiled in the freebies scandal. £107,000 in gifts given to him since 2019 and a personal donor being given a Downing Street pass. Then the Prime Minister was reprimanded by his own ethics advisor over the appointment of a non-disclosed Labour donor to be the football regulator. His Transport Secretary, an ex-cop, had to resign over misleading the police. His anti-corruption minister had to resign over corruption. His homelessness minister had to resign for making people homeless. And then his deputy prime minister, housing minister, had to resign over a £40,000 unpaid tax bill on her house. No wonder even the leader of the Scottish Labour Party now says that the PM must go. Mr. Sarwar says, and I quote, "There have been too many mistakes and that he has no choice but to be honest about failure where I see it." He is right. Mr. Speaker, no amount of process or fiddling about with procedures can compensate for a Prime Minister who lacked the judgment to act on information put before him. The Prime Minister was warned about Mandelson. He knew, but he decided it was a risk worth taking. And as the leader of the Scottish Labour Party pointed out today, it's not just the Mandelson affair. Time and time again, the Prime Minister gets it wrong, from the winter fuel payment to the family farm tax. And just like with the grooming gangs inquiry, the PM has once again put his own political interest ahead of the interests of victims. Mr. Speaker, at the start of his statement, the Minister says the PM's choices in this case go to the heart of who he is. And that is what we are worried about, Mr. Speaker. The PM's head of communications has resigned. The PM's chief of staff has resigned. The leader of the Scottish Labour Party says the Prime Minister should resign. It seems like more and more people, even in the Labour Party, are now coming to the same conclusion as the public. This country deserves better.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.